Welcome to The Reset, where we hit the pause button, embrace who we are, and reconnect with our purpose while rewriting our stories together with confidence and intention. I am so excited to be here today with Xenia. She is the founder of an amazing brand, 1988. The brand is redefining fashion with a purpose. 1998 isn't just about clothing, it's about empowerment, resilience, and honoring the progress women have made while we're still pushing for more. So I'm going to dive into how this brand started and why it matters. So I want to say hi to you. How are you today?
Hi, Stefanie. Thank you for having me.
That's great. I'm so glad that you were able to come out here tonight. I just want to know, just a kind of quick emotional check-in. How are you doing? What would be your song title if you had one for today?
I would say Don't Stop Me Now by Queen.
Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. Why?
One of my favorites, and I'm running on high energy today. Had a great event earlier in the day, and I'm just rolling with it. I'm feeling the high energy. We're here tonight, and I want to keep the momentum going.
So the reason why I had you on is because I feel like you are one of those game changer business leaders. You have a really special story. So I'm really trying to learn more about your story. So do you want to share a little bit more about 1988 and the brand and how it started?
Absolutely. So let's start with what 1988 is.
Yes.
1988 was the year the Women's Business Ownership Act was enacted. So prior to October 1988, a woman could not secure a business loan without a male cosigner, or it was very difficult. We'll say that. Extremely difficult. There was no regulation around it. Essentially, you could have had the best idea, the most detailed business plan, and if you walked into a bank to ask for money, they would have said, go get daddy.
Go get daddy. Okay.
Or even your little brother. Sadly. So prior to starting 1988, I did some work around a women in business advocacy program for a financial institution. And I worked on that project for about 2 years. 1988 came up in the research that I did for the project, and I could not get that out of my head. I just couldn't believe that within my lifetime.
Right.
So within my lifetime, I could have essentially not received funding for my business. I just thought it was insane. And I realized the shock factor. So, needless to say, corporate America let me go.
That's happened to a lot of people.
After almost 20 years. And I knew it was the swift kick in the rear that I needed. I started working through what I wanted to do next and realized I wanted to continue the work I was doing with the previous organization, but on my terms. And 1988 just kept living there. And I started to combine all of my passions and came up with these designs and said, you know what? I'm going to tell this story through fashion, through shirts, sweatshirts, carry on this legacy and hopefully start a movement.
I always seem to think that people tend to look before they listen, right? When a woman walks into a room, and this has been from the beginning of time, if she's pretty and she has on a nice outfit, people are going to listen. So I like the idea that fashion is, something that you're going to express it through. And I'm wearing right now the 1988 shirt you gave me, and I absolutely love it. It's in red. And red is also a big color. I think you had posted something recently about red and how it defined women. Do you remember that?
It was pink.
Pink and red, right?
Pink and red.
With the red lipstick.
Yes, the red lipstick. That's right. I reposted a story about red lips, the history behind red lipstick. So there's an extensive story behind that goes beyond just fashion and beauty.
Right. There's a lot of different colors that we can associate with so many different meanings, and I definitely love red because it has confidence. So I feel very confident today wearing this.
It's powerful. Definitely.
Yeah, and there's definitely a power play with women and men, even in 2025. There's so many different things coming up, in the world right now that women have to face. So what was that moment for you? You had mentioned that you were working for another company, and that if you could describe like maybe a no that you heard that made you say, yes, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go for this brand.
A no. I think getting fired was my no.
That will do it.
Yeah, definitely. Because I felt as though the work I was doing was powerful. I put everything I had into it because I believed in what I was doing. It wasn't necessarily for the organization, but it was for the community that I was doing it for. And to suddenly be told you're not needed anymore was ouch. Again, after almost 20 years of working, and for someone who has worked steadily all of their life, I've never been in that space before.
Yeah.
But I had to realize that it wasn't a direct reflection of me. That no wasn't a reflection of me. It was their ignorance. But
yeah, why not? Let's call it for what it is.
Listen, they weren't ready for me. Let's put it that way. And again, it allowed me to do what I wanted to do on my terms.
So what do you want to do?
I want to start a movement.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I want this to start the purpose behind this is to continue to create community. Part of what I uncovered doing my previous work was that women are still missing a lot of resources. We're not taking advantage of what's out there. And we don't know what's out there because we don't ask. We don't ask for help because we've been conditioned not to ask for help. So we're not telling people what we want. We're not asking for help. And that's part of what's keeping us behind.
I think it's true. A lot of women get together and they want to share all the good things that are happening in their life and what are you up to now? And one of the best things you can ask somebody is, what do you need? What can I do for you? There's a lot of networking events going on. You just mentioned that you went to an event. I had the privilege of going to an event for women in medicine because I work in medicine. And one of the things that they said was ask people, what can I do for you? Is there anything I can help you with? We're so attuned to now in this society to saying that we can do it all. And we can with the right people by our side. So I think it's really important to build strong communities of women who have a voice, to share their voice, to learn new things. It's very hard when you're opening up a business. For me, the Reset is also a consulting business, and I want to share my voice and help speak to women. So I think it's so important to have those resources. Is there a place or a location or a website that you found to be helpful for you in that?
So you can go on my website.
Yes.
That's
awesome.
There's a number of resources that are out there for small business owners in general. Again, as per the Women's Business Ownership Act, a lot of these resources came to play. We didn't have them before. So the Women's Centers for Entrepreneurship, additional resources came through the SBDCs, the Small Business Development Centers. They weren't necessarily offering services directly for women. So in addition to allowing us to get lending on our own, it also provided additional resources and programs that we now see. But guess what? We still don't know it's out there. We're still not taking advantage of it. And here's the funny part about it. women represent 42% of small business ownership currently. So this is what we've accomplished thus far. Not asking for help. 42%.
It's really interesting that you say that. I was looking at statistics recently for how many women are enrolled in a medical program to become like a physician. And they said between the year 2025 and 2030, it's going to shift from the 40 percentages to the 52% of women. They already saw enrollment in schools in New York City go up, and it was in the 50s. So I think awareness is so important to allow women to have that opportunity to see what's available to them and to feature women. Has there been any specific women that have inspired you over the years?
So I will say, I guess you at this point would call her a sponsor. The individual that hired me into my previous role has weaved in and out of my career for the last 20 years in financial services.
Oh.
And she came to me and said, I would love for you to start this program. So I would say she's been very influential in what I've accomplished, what I've done. When she brought it to me, I was like, are you serious? And she's like, no, I think you would do a great job. I said, all right, I'll roll with it. Let's give it a shot. And it allowed me to go beyond my boundaries. Let's put it that way. It definitely pushed my boundaries, allowed me to find my passion. I didn't know that was necessarily there, that's where I was going to go.
I also find as I get a little bit older, when you're talking about people who've inspired you, you mentioned specifically now this woman who worked with you and she keeps coming in and out of your life, is mentorship. Recently, I began mentorship at my alumni, William Patterson, and I've also taken on Wonder Girls to become a mentor, and it's a program that encourages young girls to be able to understand what is out there for them, to write their own resumes, their own vision boards, to just really any type of event or workshop that will give them confidence. And there's so many things that are going on. So I actually think, and I don't know if you agree with me, but you probably do, is that mentorship also helps you rediscover who you are, that inner girl in you. And if you could look back and talk to yourself and say, what you would have done or who you are, you kind of see the past versions of yourself coming back out. I recently had done a vision board workshop, and I had put myself in the center of the vision. And in the corner, I wrote a little note to myself at 25. I think I told you this story, at lunch a few weeks ago. And I said, don't settle for less. Because sometimes women really do believe that once somebody offers them something good, they're like, I have to take it right away. This is the best opportunity I'll ever have. I can't believe someone's offering this to me. And they jump at it. And they find themselves indebted to other people and asking that question, how much more do I owe to someone else? And feeling like I can't get away with this on my own. So I think it's really empowering that you were able to work for someone else and then say to yourself, I have to turn this into my own business, not taking away from the company you worked for or the people who were there, but you got to find your own voice. And that's something that I think about often. Do you have something you would say to your younger self?
A lot of things. Number one, go to therapy sooner.
I like that.
The other part would be, are we allowed to cuss? I would say to myself, F them all. Do it sooner, do it bigger, do it louder, because they're going to judge regardless.
They will.
And I grew up in a household where we worried about what everyone else thought. And I was still the black sheep. but maintain the level of respect. Let's put it that way. And I think I would tell myself to change that. There's so much more that you can do. Don't worry about what anyone else is saying.
I think there's a power in that. I tend to think that when you put something out there and you're doing it with good intentions, because there are people out there that don't have good intentions, but right. If you know personally that you are putting something out there in the universe that has good intentions and is something that you want to help make a difference in people's lives, you have to act now, be decisive, and you have to believe in yourself and set it and forget it. And it's like the Easy Bake Oven. I'm probably dating myself with the Easy Bake Oven, but seriously, you have to see what happens. You have to take that chance. And I love so many quotes. And what if you fly? Right? You don't necessarily know what's going to happen. And sometimes one venture turns into another. So, how has this experience been for you?
Turbulent in a very short time. But that's what entrepreneurship is. That's what taking a chance is. If anyone thinks that it's a straight line trajectory, to the skies, don't do it. You're out of your mind. Every single day I feel as though it's an emotional roller coaster. One day you're flying high, you've gotten the message from the universe that you are doing the right thing. The next day you're like, what the heck was I thinking? Like, am I serious right now? Get a job, dude. But, you push through it. And I've been hearing this over and over again lately, and it's true. The people that are most successful are not so because they're better, but because they push through. They push through the hard, they go over the obstacles, and they keep going.
This is so true.
Don't just give up because you hit a hurdle.
So what do you do on a day when you don't want to do this and you're like looking in the mirror? Because I've had these days where you're like, why am I doing this? You revert back to that woman feeling. Like, I see all these memes going around the internet, and I should have just wanted to be a stay-at-home wife. Fuck feminism. Like, what was I thinking? Like, I could have just married someone rich. I mean, I don't know. You might be married to someone rich, but like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm a woman. I'm a mother. Like you said, you were a mother. Earlier. I want to hear more about your family in a little bit, but like, why do this? Why not just shut up and be married and find a husband who will just financially support you, and just why isn't it enough to be a mother and a wife?
Because I can't shut up. It's innate in me. It's not who I am. I have to do something. I have to accomplish something. I can't be still. I can't just be. I mean, we do it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I am a mom. I am a wife.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3, and I have two girls and a boy, and that's the other reason why I do it. I have 2 girls. I have an 8-year-old that wants to be a neurosurgeon. Where did she get that from? Has nothing to do with me or her father. No idea. Very specific. A neurosurgeon.
Well, I have someone she could follow. I'm following a neurosurgeon who's pretty amazing.
I think I found her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, right there, that's a hefty bar to reach.
But you don't think she got it from you? I mean, you're saying that to me, that where did she get it from? I mean, she's watching you, right? So maybe she is getting it from you.
The neurosurgeon part.
Well, maybe she thinks you're very smart.
Possibly. Well, for now. But that's definitely a driving force. I need for those 2 little people obviously my son as well, and we're teaching him to be an advocate, but those two girls need to know that they can do anything. She can be a neurosurgeon. My other one wants to be a scientist.
Man once said.
But I want them to continue to believe that they can do any of that. And I'm a big learner. I have to constantly be learning and evolving. And that's something else that I'm teaching them. They see me taking classes online, anything that I can muster up, uncover, learn something new. They're like, well, what are you doing? You're not in school. I'm always learning. I need the knowledge. I need to know more because I know I can do more. And I want them to see that as well, because the world that they're coming into is going to be ever evolving. So they need to be ready.
Are there, when you say the world they're coming into, are there any current events that you follow, that any causes that are happening right now that are important to you?
Well, I would say exactly what 1988 stands for. Women's rights, the ability to continue to do what we do without having it be silenced or taken away. And again, that's another reason why this is so near and dear to me, because I don't want whatever's happening now to impact my girls in the future.
Right, so you want to be the voice for your girls too. Yeah, I have 2 girls too, so I really do feel that. And, I have a little bit older children than you. I have a 17-year-old. I have a 9-year-old too, so I can relate to that. I also have a boy in between, and I want to raise him to respect women and understand women's needs and learn a little bit more about how women think and what they do need, because it is, been for so long a man's world, and we've tried, not to get political at all, but, a man has always been president and the head of figure. So it's important to understand women's needs and rights. And I definitely think that is what's amazing about your brand, and that's what inspired me to have you on here today, is because I think it's so important. So tell me more about how the fashion came about and what the clothes look like and what they feel like, and who do you see wearing them?
So the fashion, although I mentioned I've been in financial services for much of my career, fashion has always been my thing, my way of expressing myself, regardless of what I was doing and where. And I was always told it was my thing. There's always a way that I put things together. I never would have thought after all this time that fashion would become my thing. I pretty much thought that ship had sailed. But it just, again, I don't even know how the inspiration sparked. I just said, 1988 is significant. It means something. And I just put it out there on the design and started working on things. And the T-shirts and sweatshirts are made up of fun sayings. There's logo shirts that just represent 1988. And then my favorite is a 1988 collage that meshes together various images of women's empowerment. So that is one of my favorites. It all represents empowerment for women. It's telling the story. And it's supposed to be a conversation starter.
Right. Yeah.
I pride myself in the details, so the products are made in the USA.
That's important.
Very important.
Why is that important?
Well, we're talking about the Women's Business Ownership Act in the U.S., so sourcing a shirt from China just seemed hypocritical. So I worked hard to source merchandise here. My printer is a local woman-owned business. that prints the merchandise.
That's incredible.
And my packaging is sustainable and also comes from a women-owned business in the U.S. So I practice what I preach.
I think that's something that definitely needs education, because sometimes when you are buying stuff and it's so much easier to go on Amazon or have something made up quickly and mass produced, and besides, supporting women businesses, small businesses as well, because really your shirt is so much more than, just some symbols. It really represents, like you said, a movement. And a lot of times, we catch ourselves, even I have, like, not wanting to shop a small business because I don't want to spend the money. I'm thinking, I'd rather just, Amazon Prime it or something. Right. So I think it's really important to get to know a person, behind the brand and who they are and what they represent, because really small businesses are the foundation of, the United States, and the American dream is entrepreneurship.
Right.
So I wanted to ask you, is there any misconceptions people have about your journey, or is there anything that you feel like you want to share with the audience about who you are and your intentions?
Well, I think like many, especially in this current age, we're looking at the highlight reels.
I like them.
So that's what everyone sees. And I'm fairly private, even on my personal social media.
Okay.
I don't post a lot. You see the kids sometimes, because I know there's family that might be a distance away, and they want to see pictures, they want to see updates. But I don't share too much. And I think the visual is, she's got it all. Why does she need to do this? This is just a hobby. And it's not the case. We all have things behind it all. We've all had our challenges. I'm sure many of us deal with things that happened in our childhood. As I mentioned, therapy earlier, I'm sure we all need it. But there's no need for everyone to see that. It's not their business. But it shapes who we are, right? I mean, if we want to share, we share. If we think it'll help someone, sure. But I think ultimately, like with many, people are saying, she has it easy, and she's not really doing anything.
So are you talking more about, like, not sharing, like, disappointments and stuff like that on social media, or like in terms of your personal life versus the brand?
Both, and obviously, deeper than that. I mean, I've had some challenges in the last 2 years that have truly defined a better part of me.
Okay.
Losses that impacted my young children. Things that, something that they shouldn't have had to deal with. So that has absolutely shaped a big part of who I am and why I do what I do, and why I say F them all,
Right. So do you feel like now that you have the brand, will you be more active on social media, or will you continue to be private?
My personal will stay personal, but I do plan on bringing myself into the brand. I know that is a big piece. I've been doing it organically through networking and events, and I know and understand that people need to connect with someone, and I am the brand. I believe in it, and I absolutely want to share with my community. Ideally, I want it to be more about the brand than about me. You see a little too much of that, I think, with social media. You'll see a brand and you'll see a person, and then you look at their profile and they have more followers than their brand does. I don't ever want that to be the case, but I do want to connect with the community.
That's definitely a different take on things, because, I mean, we're in a society now where everything's about doing a video or showing who you are, and people do want to connect and get to know you. Do you feel that because there's such a large audience of women, right? They're all women who, you're trying to inspire, that maybe they'll be the voices of your brand?
I would like that to be the case. My vision is that you're buying the shirt because you're ready to have a conversation. You're ready to walk into a room and wearing a bright red shirt that says 1988. Be prepared for someone to say, what is that? What does that mean? And you tell that story.
I think that's really important, is when you are doing something and you have a cause, that what are you going to give back to other people? How are you going to help other women? What's the purpose of doing this? Because like you said, it could just be to promote yourself, but you really do sound to me incredibly genuine, that you have a mission. And I'm sitting here and I'm like a little bit back in my own seat, and I'm like, oh my God, I share so much on social media, I absolutely love sharing. So it's respecting each other's values and each other's needs. Mm-hmm. Recently, I met someone who, explained that to me very well at one of these speaker events, about how sometimes you say things and, it's great if you do it for yourself and how you feel, but you really have to think about what other people think and feel. So I think it's a big challenge in this society and social media, and even now us doing a podcast, to say, I'm not going to share it all. I'm going to keep this part of myself private. Because you open up yourself to lots of scrutiny and lots of misconceptions and judgments. So I find that admirable that you want to keep it focused on the 1988 brand and really your mission.
Right.
So tell me more about what that future looks like.
So the brand is meant to build awareness. We want to tell the story. We want that to ripple. My vision is that there's a ripple effect. Someone wears the shirt, they tell the story. Someone else grabs the shirt, they tell the story. We need to know where we came from to know where we're going, right? So we can't forget that. From there, build a community through the brand, through the awareness. On my social media, I share a lot of resources for women-owned businesses. Again, because I want to continue to give them what's available to them for them to improve and get better. So it's about building that community, carrying that forward, giving them resources with one another and with what's available to them. And I also want to give back once we're profitable. We're looking to ensure that a portion of our proceeds go to women's organizations and young women and the development of young women.
That's really incredible. Is there any new events that you're going to be hosting or anything coming up in the near future?
So my next live and in color will be a LinkedIn Live tomorrow at 12. It's been my road show, I guess, the last couple of days. But next will be the LinkedIn Live, and then just a couple more women's panel events, things like that. I'm not speaking, but attending and just getting out there in the community.
So for women listening to this, and you're talking about the struggles with your business and how, it takes a long time to start up and profitability, what is it that you want to share with the audience about what do you do when you feel stuck? When I feel stuck, I kind of think about my reason for going forward, and I really do think about my younger self. And you had mentioned that you grew up in a home that maybe it wasn't something you spoke about, and you can't stay silent. So what would you offer to other women who want to start a business but they feel stuck and they don't feel encouraged to go ahead?
So I just learned something yesterday and I know this is many, if not all women. we don't want to do something unless it's 100%, unless it's perfect. And I was on a virtual event yesterday, and the advice was 70%. You're 70% ready, go for it. Otherwise, you never will. Go for it. Give it a shot. We all get stuck. It's what you do after that. It's what you do with that feeling.
Right.
So I might cry one day. I might just take off and go for a walk and grab a matcha and clear my head. I might not do squat because I'm just not feeling it and I feel crappy. But I can guarantee you the next morning I'm getting up and I'm getting back into it, and I'm going to make sure that I accomplish something and keep going.
So I like when you talked about grabbing a matcha, taking a break. A lot of the business owners that come on and speak on social media say how you have to be decisive. You have to make a decision now. You have to be faster than everybody else, smarter than everybody else. What value do you see in slowing down? Do you feel that has that helped you at all?
Absolutely. I don't think we have to be fastest. Who are we racing against? And I'm going to share again. This is the power of being around a community. Someone shared today, the only person you're racing against is yourself.
Right.
So why do we have to go faster? Just take the next step. Keep taking your steps.
Right, because sometimes when we go fast, and I love to go fast. I'm a guilty participant in going fast. It makes me so happy. I mean, I get a thrill from it. I'm like, how many things can I get done in one day? I wanted to compete today. I was talking about it earlier. I was like, I went to work this morning. I took my kid to the doctor. I was able to come home and do this and that. And now I'm here doing a podcast. Like, look at me. But I do have that feeling, and that's what the reset is all about. I was sharing earlier with my amazing producer, Paul, about how Paul Bastante, he's here. He's amazing. He's helping with Tony T do the sound, and they're making this amazing show about how I went through a period when I was just going through my reset after I was divorced and driving with the kids in the car, and I felt like one of those laptops that I just wanted to close. And that was such a painful feeling. I was like, when do I shut down? And I have to remind myself very often, wait, I can reset. So I think that's really hard. And I really like talking with you because I feel like you have that grace, that ability to say, I'm going to do the right thing, even if it's slow. Like you just mentioned earlier, even if I'm not, posting as fast on social media or about my private life or making my brand about me, you really want this to be about women and businesses and what they need. Do you find that there's certain businesses owned by women that stop or shut down sooner than others? Is there any businesses that just don't continue on because they just feel stuck and they have to shut down?
I think if that happens, it goes back to not asking for help and not knowing the resources. And there's research behind it, there's psychology behind it. We are more diligent in how we tackle things as women. Women tend to be better leaders when they're allowed to lead. Granted, we may overthink things, but we plan better. We think things through. So if a woman is failing, it's because she didn't ask for help and she doesn't have that community around her to keep going. So she's let the little voice in her head tell her that you believe what they're saying, you're not good enough, this is not going to work, and just forget it.
Asking for help, that's hard.
Yeah.
I really like that because that's the hardest thing in the world to do is ask for help, especially as a woman. I feel it. I feel it. I pride myself. I'm very proud. I'm not
Same.
asking for your help. I'm not
Same.
doing it. But I do see the value. I mean, I have no idea how to navigate the whole business side of even the reset, right? Like, am I supposed to file something this year? I'm just joking, of course. No, I did. Tax season's coming, but it is. These are questions you do have to ask yourself. And I had joined the Chamber of Commerce, which I think is a very valuable resource, and the North Jersey, and they had expressed that there's so many women business loans available to women that women don't know about. So is this something that we're going to see more about on your website?
So I have posted information on Instagram about grants that are available specifically to women, microloans, various programs to look into. So you will see that. I do a little stick on Thursdays called Thirsty Thursday. It's really about knowledge. So I try to share those resources on Thursdays for women that have not seen them or don't know that they're available. And I've focused on private grants recently only because of recent challenges and potential to not have federal funding available. But there are an extensive amount of programs and grants for women, by women and by organizations that are advocating for women, and they're available everywhere. So I try to share as much as possible as I come across them, or whatever I'm already aware of.
That's really amazing. I know a lot of people go into starting a business because they want to have a legacy. They like the idea of legacy, and recently I've thought about legacy in action. For me, I know this might sound crazy, but I'm not looking for any afterthoughts. I'm not looking for a legacy. I'm looking to live, right? What is the mindset that a woman has to go into when she starts a business?
I think it's just getting it done. Again, we tend to overthink things. So I'm sure there are a lot of women out there with amazing ideas that are just not following through because they're not ready enough. And I think that's the mindset that needs to change. Because there's so much we've already contributed to the world. There's so much we do really, really well. We need to realize that we need more of it.
Right, definitely. So I wanted to ask you, what is next for you, and how can people be a part of it? How can people join this movement?
Buy a shirt. Tell the story. I will tell you, it worked. It worked for me. And I'll give you a very quick situation that happened. I was having a bad day, and I was wearing my shirt, and I went out for my matcha, and someone stopped me and asked me what 1988 was.
That's awesome.
And it was great because it was an aha moment for me. I said, okay, the universe just spoke to me. It does say something. The story is important. And I got to tell this person what it was all about, and it was great. And it was a man, and he went and shared it with his wife. So it was a reinforcement for me, and that's what I want to happen. More of that. Wear the shirt, be ready to tell the story. Tell the story about 1988, where we came from, and then tell your story. Because you never know who's listening that might need to hear your story. And you don't know who's going to hear your story and might be able to help.
Absolutely. I am a big believer in telling your story. Telling your story, sharing your story, understanding how you can help other people, women, to understand their story. And I think that's really incredible, how you can impact men to understand their women's why. Because I've heard other women say to me from time to time, and I had this question too. When I was younger and I was raising 2 kids, I went back to school to become a nurse, and I had to really justify it. And at that time, I didn't have an income. And I really had to fight for it and explain to my ex-husband at the time, who was my husband, my mother-in-law, everybody, how I was going to put these kids in daycare, how I was going to go back to school, how much money did I think that this was going to impact our family in the long run. And here I am now, a nurse practitioner, a business owner, having a podcast. It takes a while for that progression. I think a lot of times men don't understand that this is something that we need for us. And I think that men have extremely hard roles on their own because, we're taught that they need to be the breadwinner and they need to be the business owners. But I think it could become a beautiful marriage in a way of sharing financial responsibility together, sharing joys and triumphs, allowing both of the parties, men and women, to know how much they impact each other, because women's movements, and I'm sure you agree with me, is not about, putting down men in any way. If anything, it's helping them to have better relationships with us, because a lot of times a woman will not want to say what she really feels to her spouse because she feels like something's missing. And now you don't need to have something missing. You can share this and you can say, hey, babe, listen, this is something I need to do for me, but this is going to benefit us. So it's changing that narrative and maybe making the story about a community, which includes men. So that's why I love that a man stopped you to learn about your shirt, because I love men. You love men?
Yeah. These guys are great.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the guys here are making the show possible. I mean, Tony T and Paul Vistante. I mean, come on. These men are great men. So, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for so many men who believed in me. But we can contribute so much to help make society exactly what it is, and kind of really, set apart those boundaries, because that's what's the problem lately, that I feel like it's become a competition rather than a collaboration.
Right.
Do you feel that?
I agree.
Yeah, and I think we can really collaborate with other women, men, help them to become better leaders, because they're leading women, and women are always in the workplace, and we're doing so much that we could really help each other and really turn it into something beautiful and a beautiful collaboration. So I am so excited that you came on tonight. I'm so excited I got to learn so much more about 1988. I love my shirt. Honestly, that's the only reason why I did this.
Fair enough.
I'm just joking. But if you feel inspired by Xenia's story and want to be a part of the movement, check out 1988. Every piece you wear will be a reminder of how far we've come and how much further we can go. So let's continue rewriting our stories together with confidence. Let's remember to reset and really look at who we are and redefine what our lives are by the choices we want to make for ourselves. And I thank you all for joining me today.
Thank you, Steph.
You're welcome.